Faith Walk realities. Joseph's advancement in life can be yours when you allow God's timing to work in your troubles. Joseph's troubles advanced, but God's presence and timing advanced his life. Yours too can turn around. How? In this remarkable story of Joseph, recorded in Genesis chapters 37 through 50, we find one of the most powerful narratives of pain turned to purpose, betrayal turned to blessing, and imprisonment turned into influence. In the story of Joseph, we see a powerful example of how troubles can advance in our lives even when we are walking in obedience to God. But just as Joseph's troubles advanced, so did the evidence of God's presence and the unfolding of God's perfect timing. At the center of it all is this key truth. Joseph's troubles advanced, but God's presence and timing advanced his life. His journey was marked by suffering, injustice, and delays, but every step was powerfully guided by God. Dreams that triggered trouble. Joseph was only 17 when God gave him dreams of leadership and influence. He saw sheaves of grain and celestial bodies bowing to him, symbols of elevation and authority. These dreams, instead of bringing encouragement from his family, stirred jealousy and hatred among his brothers. They questioned, "Do you intend to reign over us?" They could not handle the vision Joseph carried. Many of us can relate to the pain of betrayal by friends, family, or people we trusted. But just like Joseph, we must remember that the advancement of trouble does not mean the absence of God. God's presence was with Joseph, even when no one else was. This is often the case. A God-given dream can cause resentment or unfriendliness. The enemy may use people, even those closest to you, to try to shut down what God has started. However, Joseph never denied the dream. Though he did not fully understand it, he held on to the vision God gave him. As a result of his obedience and honesty, Joseph's troubles began to advance. I encourage you to take note that faith does not absence us from trouble. No matter how strong our faith is, we will have to pass through valleys and storms of life to pass God's test. God's pass mark is only a movable faith that says yes to the word and no to sin. Most strong faith may suffer for righteousness' sake. My brothers and sisters in Christ, if any of us fall into various trials and tested, let us not fear where the threat or trouble is coming from or those involved. Because after the adversary planned against us failed, God's presence and timing will advance our lives. God will bring favor, desires, success, open doors, or opportunities to you. You will not lack or want any good thing, for you have feared to commit sin and that you seek God in prayer. You trust him. His presence will be with you at the very troubled times. Joseph's own brothers planned against him. First, they threw him into a pit. Then they sold him into slavery. His coat of many colors, once a sign of favor, was stripped from him and soaked in blood to deceive his father. But amid betrayal and loss, God's presence remained, the slave who prospered. Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. There, something incredible happened. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered. In a foreign land, in the house of a pagan master, Joseph prospered. Why? Because God's presence was with him. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Not even slavery could stop the favor of God. Potiphar noticed the excellence in Joseph and made him overseer of his household. Everything Joseph managed prospered. This season reveals that even when we are in uncomfortable or unfamiliar places, God's presence can cause us to thrive, flourish, prosper, succeed, increase, boom, grow well, and be healthy. Your environment does not define your success. God's presence does. But just as things were beginning to look better, Joseph's troubles advanced again. The injustice that led to imprisonment. Potiphar's wife became infatuated or obsessed with Joseph. Day after day she tried to seduce him, but Joseph refused and said, "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" His commitment to purity and integrity was unwavering. Angered by rejection, Potiphar's wife falsely accused him of attempted assault. Joseph was imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. His reward for righteousness was imprisonment. At this point, many would have given up. After all, Joseph did the right thing, but his troubles only grew worse. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor. God's presence in the prison was just as real as it was in the palace. Joseph did not lose his faith. He did not become bitter. He remained available, faithful, and full of integrity. Soon, the prison warden entrusted Joseph with overseeing the other prisoners. This phase of his life was critical. In that prison, Joseph met two of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. He interpreted their dreams with divine insight. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him, but the man forgot. Joseph remained in prison for 2 more years. 2 years, forgotten, overlooked, and left behind, but not by God. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. God's timing begins to unfold. Pharaoh had troubling dreams no one could interpret. Suddenly, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. He was summoned from the prison, cleaned up, and brought before Pharaoh. In an instant, God's timing began to align with Joseph's preparation. Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams and provided a divine strategy for the future of Egypt. Pharaoh recognized the Spirit of God in Joseph and said, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall oversee my palace." Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister in a single day. But his promotion was years in the making. This season of Joseph's life teaches us that God's timing is not always our timing. We may be ready for promotion, but God is preparing something far greater behind the scenes. The prison was not punishment, it was preparation. God was refining Joseph's character, developing leadership skills, and building spiritual endurance. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. God's timing is often slower than ours, but it is always wiser. A purpose greater than Joseph. Joseph's story was not just about personal breakthrough, it was about national salvation. The famine that followed affected not only Egypt, but also the surrounding lands, including Canaan, where Joseph's family lived. Eventually, his brothers came to Egypt seeking food. They did not recognize Joseph, but he recognized them. He tested them, and after a moving reunion, he forgave them. Joseph declared these unforgettable words, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." What a perspective! Joseph saw his pain as part of God's plan. The betrayal, the pit, the prison, all were tools in the hands of a sovereign God to position him for purpose. When your troubles advance, if you find yourself in a season where trouble is advancing, take heart. You are not alone. God is not absent. His presence is with you, and his timing is working on your behalf. Here are truths to anchor your faith. 1. God's presence is greater than the pit. No matter how deep the betrayal, God will not abandon you. 2. Obedience may bring trouble before promotion. Joseph did what was right and suffered for it, but in the end, he reigned. 3. The delay is preparation, not punishment. Every prison moment was shaping Joseph for leadership. 4. God remembers what others forget. When people overlook you, God does not. 5. Your story has a bigger purpose. What you are enduring today may save lives tomorrow. From the pit to the palace, Joseph's life is a powerful reminder that setbacks are setups in God's hands. What others meant for evil, God can use for good. Your troubles may be advancing, but so is God's plan. The key is to remain faithful. Stay in God's presence. Do not abandon your integrity. Keep serving and believing. At the right time, not a second too early or late, God's timing will advance your life. Just like Joseph, you may not understand every step, but you can trust the one who is guiding your journey. Your palace moment will come. When it does, you will look back and see that every trouble, every tear, season of waiting was not wasted. It was preparation for something greater and inspiring. Joseph's rise was not luck. It was alignment with God's presence and timing. He never rushed the process, never tried to force outcomes. He walked in integrity, trusted the Lord, and remained faithful even when it seemed like God was silent. This is a message to every believer walking through hardship. Your troubles do not cancel the promise. The very things meant to destroy you can be the tools God uses to elevate you. Do not resist the delay. Do not fear the silence. God's timing is perfect and His presence is sufficient. Lessons from Joseph's faith walk. 1. Dreams attract trials. The moment Joseph received a vision, opposition followed. Do not be surprised when your calling is tested. 2. God's presence is with the faithful. Whether in a pit or palace, Joseph carried God's presence through obedience and humility. 3. Injustice does not stop destiny. Falsely accused and forgotten, yet Joseph's destiny still came to pass. 4. Preparation precedes promotion. God used the prison to develop Joseph's leadership, wisdom, and spiritual strength. 5. Divine timing brings sudden change. When God says it's time, no man can stop your elevation. Joseph's story is not just about rising from trouble. It is about walking faithfully through trouble, knowing that God's presence and timing are actively at work. His life is a testimony that advancement does not always look like progress. Sometimes advancement feels like betrayal, setbacks, and isolation. But in the hands of God, every step, even the painful ones, are leading somewhere glorious. So, when your troubles advance, hold on to the truth. God's presence is with you, and His timing will advance your life in ways beyond your expectation. Like Joseph, your story is not ending in the misery, it is rising to the palace, open gates, gates of prosperity and abundance. If this inspired you, give it a thumbs up. Share this message with someone who needs encouragement. Drop a comment. How your troubles advanced, but God's presence and timing advanced your life. Subscribe for more Bible-based faith, wisdom. Watch the video.